So values are of a type. Okay, so values are of a type. So I am like, what type am I, Todd? What type am I?
Person.
I'm a person, or I'm a human. I'm a Homo sapien, right? So like the value Todd is type person. So values are of a type. So if I have x (42), what's the value?
42.
42, what's the type? It's an int, right? If I have y what's the value?
Cloud.
McLeod. What's the type?
String.
String. Values are of a type, so put that in your notes. That's something that's like foundational, fundamental. Values are of a type. Okay? Know these definitions of those words. Values are of a type.
I think what mainly gets confusing with me there is that you also have types, like you create a type of person, which is func, which is in itself going to run on other entries that are on other types.
So let's check this out. Let's look at the possible types. Golang spec. Here are the types. We just saw a numeric type, an int, and then we had a string type. There's also a struct type, a slice type, a map type. Functions are a type. Functions are first-class citizens. You can pass them around like any other type. Pass them in as an argument, return them from a function. That's interesting. So values are of a type. So we are using like, here are types that come with the language. And we could create our own types. Cool. What's the underlying type of that type I just created?
Integer.
Integer. So if I do this, the heck? That totally just worked. So what is the value of h1?
42.
The value of h1 is 42. What is the type? The type is hot dog.
Alright.
Values are of a type.
So could you just go H1 int and it's be the same thing instead of H1 hot dog?
Yeah.
But you do that, it makes it easier if you have a big program to set the variable.
Sure, it's just the type right here.
Oh,
Right? But I can't do this. Var x int. If I print x, what's the value of x going to be?
Doesn't have one.
0. Hold on one second. Okay, so values are of a type. And the value of x is going to be 0 because when you use var x, when you use var and you don't assign a value to it, I've declared that x is of type int. It has no value. It's automatically given the 0 value, which for an int is 0. Okay, so I cannot do this. X is equal to h1. That's not going to work because h1 is of type hot dog and x is of type int. Cannot use h1 type hot dog as type int. They're two different types. This is a statically typed language, not dynamically typed. You can't screw around with your types. You have to know what you're doing. This isn't JavaScript script kiddies. You stepped up to the table now. You got a real language. What's up?
Would it be possible to cast x equals h1 as int?
Yeah, because the underlying type is int, so you could conversion, also known as cast.
That was just
Conversion. You can convert a type to its underlying type if it has it.
so when you declare when you're creating method pPerson as one of the receivers, it's declaring that when you get p followed by any variable, any number, it's going to be of type person.
Let's see it. Not following that in my head. You tell me where you get stuck. Let me just type it out. So check it out. I had type hot dog as an int. It's type because I'm creating my own type. You get to create your own types. This is how you do object-oriented programming or approximate it in Go, right? You do a type, and then you do the identifier person, and then you do the underlying type. This is a struct. It's an aggregate data type, composite data type, aggregates together, composes together fields of different types, right? Values of different types. So it's values and types. So I do first string. I'm just going to do first name. And then if I wanted to, I could create a person. P1 colon equal. I use a composite literal. Person is the type. And then curly braces, I'm going to put the values in there. And the value I put in is the first name or whatever name I want. Some string. And then I could print that. P1 will print out the entire struct. And P1.first will print out the first name. So I have, what is the value of P1? What's the value? P1.first. What's the value of P1.first?
McLeod.
McLeod. Okay? And what is the type of P1.first?
Person.
P1.first.
Oh, string.
String. What's the type of P1?
Struct.
That's the underlying type. What's the type?
Person.
Person. Values are of a type. And then you have a method, and you had a question about the method. So I do a method. What's the first thing I do with a method? What I type? What? Func. What's the first thing I type for a func? Func. Func. And then for a method, I need to type in receiver. And then the identifier, parameters, and code. And I could call that method.
So that very last line of code you type in, the p1.speak, is that what automatically prints?
When I call this, it runs this code. Everything between these brackets. It's like taking code and putting it into a little module. It's modularizing your program.
Okay.
And you break a big problem up into little chunks, and you make sure each of those little chunks work, and then you just call them when you need them.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's why you named your methods specifically. That way, if you need to call the entire thing, you can.
Yeah.
You just want to call little parts of it.
Yeah, so like look at this program. It'll take a second for WebStorm to shoot up. But I'll show you.
Hey, that's a convenient one. I think I'm at the part of yours.
So I'll show you this code in the next video, but I just want to finish this up, this video here. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, the receiver first. What's the anatomy of that?
It's this is a identifier holding a value of type person, right? And it has a method attached to it, speak. And so this value of type person has that field. So it's just dot notation to call the fields.
No, I mean when you declare the method as speak, you identify it as speak, but the receiver is set as pPerson. What is the receiver's syntax? P and person means it can identify P1 as a person?
This could be doggy.
Yeah,
That's just an-
what I was wondering. Well, it could just be anything.
Yeah, it's just an identifier. Name it whatever you want.
Okay. I'm guessing people generally try to keep the most common sense type of identifiers. That way it's easiest to remember.
Common sense identifier, short,
So
brief,
if
concise.
as it is right now, it's set to do. Would that mean you could only run P1?
Still till he runs. Because this is just like an argument. The scope of this is only here, right? And so any value of type person, this is all it's doing is attaching this, and it's saying whatever person this is attached to, I'm going to run the first name off of that person.
It casts whatever it's receiving as that within that function.
It assigns it to the variable, assigns it to DOD. This person is almost like they're passed in as an argument right here and assigned to DOD. And so then it's P1.first right there.
And the way that works is that since you can make variables that aren't attached to any function, any braces, and any curlies, that is, but you can also put function variables within them. To use that, set up that as a receiver means you take the whatever you're given from something else as a variable assigned by that receiver. You're assigning whatever you're receiving as DOD, and then running it through the function, which prints whatever DOD's first field is.
Sounds right. So if I just had a function like this,
I'm thinking too broad.
func, I don't know, num, print, numpy, whatever, I'm just going to call it that, and it passes in a number. Right, and then if I call numpy, I pass in a number. This number here, when numpy has this defined as a parameter, so I pass that in as an argument. So when I call numpy, right, 44 gets passed in here. It's an int has to be passed in. It's assigned to n, and then the scope of n is to there, and we use n right here. You know. So when I run this, it prints out 44. I could have called this, you know, like, so this right here, parameters, are just exactly like this right here. Except I don't have to, right here, pass in, when I call speak, pass in, oh, this is P1 that's going to speak. Since it's attached to P1, it's as if P1 gets passed in right here and assigned to DOD. And now P1 is accessible anywhere in here as DOD or whatever I've named this. It's just like another parameter, another argument when you attach it as a method.
I think I understand.
But then having it attached as a method allows you to kind of like have that, you know, travel with that type a little bit more. It kind of connects your code together. The type and the functions are all connected together.
I think the way I get it is that when you, the way speak works is whatever is put into it that it runs through speak, it takes whatever variable, in that case, when you're running main, it runs P1 speak, it takes P1 and renames P1 as DOD within while it's running speak. P1 gets passed over to...
Yeah.
Okay, that's...
Yeah, just like another argument you're passing in.
Yeah, because that way the variables still function within each of them. It says, but this one says run P1, and P1 is set over to this, which calls it DOD, and it spits DOD out, pass back to that. So
Yeah.
I think okay,
Yeah,
that
receivers
was
are just
really
like parameters.
confusing for a moment.
Receivers are just like parameters,
Okay.
except you don't have to pass anything in. It's just automatically attached to any value of that type. Cool.